Hello and welcome back, everybody, to the DanJohnUniversity.com podcast. I'm Dan John. This is episode 325. That means we're only 75 exciting episodes until we hit 400. I am very enthusiastic about that. Listen, if you have questions, please send them to us at this podcast with this address, podcast@DanJohnUniversity.com. I'm always amazed in the questions and the comments how many people ask how to contact the podcast, as it's right there. We have some interesting questions, a little bit different this week. Looking forward to one of them for sure. But this first one starts off with Brendan. Brendan is a great name, Brendan the Explorer. Brendan asks this: my grandfather is in his mid-90s and quite healthy. He still exercises, but recently gifted me a metal spring chest expander that he likely can't use anymore. I think these were pretty popular about 100 years ago and maybe up until the 1960s. I would say, in my experience, up until the early 1970s. And I'll tell you the story about that. Initially, I didn't know what to do with it, and it was damn hard to spread that thing. But after a bit of research, I have some sense of its use, if not relative value. My question here is, does Dan John think this tool is worth any time spent with it? In other words, is it out of fashion because it doesn't compare to things like a barbell and kettlebells, or does it maintain high value but lack of popularity? I have 2 young kids and I am a 40-year-old middle school teacher with access to barbell, bumper plates, kettlebells, and some other toys. I like Olympic lifting, easy strength, weighted pull-ups, and dips. Does Dan think a metal chest expander would be worth putting into the rotation, given some of the other tools and time restraints? Wow. It brought me back in time to 1971, 1972. I had one of these. It had red wooden handles and 3 cables. To double check things, I went to the book that really, one of the 3 books that changed my life, Bodybuilding and Self-Defense by Miles Callum. This is probably the 5th copy I've owned. I keep buying it and giving it to people. It's interesting. It's from Barnes & Noble Publishing. But in here, he's doing a exercise with on his back. But the most famous thing was when you had it here and you pulled out like this. It was called a chest expander. But the most common thing we did with it was this, and really that's more of a row or a lat exercise. In Bodybuilding and Self-Defense, he also has another picture of the model doing a curl with it, with all 3 strings. I gave mine to Steve, my friend Steve. I'm not going to give last names anymore because somebody took offense to a story I told that is true about the person, and I got a little letter in the mail with no return address. But that's how you find out who your friends are and who your friends are not. But I gave it to Steve, and it was at a high school football game. I brought it, and it was I had it in a brown paper bag, and I put it in there, and it. Our teammates thought I was giving them bottles of booze, and that didn't work. The value on it is not going to be very much. You're going to tap out on it fairly quickly, as I think you might have already discovered. For travel, I think we have better items now. Nowadays, we have those the rubber bands with handles. You probably could engineer that with your own stuff to make it just as good. I'm not against any exercise tool. In fact, as I was looking at just before the podcast here, he used Miles Callum. He used wooden dowels. He used all kinds of things. You come into my gym, there's weird little platforms and weird little objects that for deficit deadlifts and stuff. If you didn't know what you were doing, you'd be like, what is this for? And then I show you and oh, that makes sense. I mean, honestly, I have my hip thrust machine next to my leg extension machine, and if you've never seen those two, it'd be hard to figure out how you would use them. A hip thrust machine, when there's nothing on it, looks like a really weirdly made bench, So I think everything has value, generally. I would keep it if I were you, because your grandfather gave it to you. And I think it's cool that your grandfather's still alive. As of the day I'm doing this, my grandmother died 100 years ago. So I was never really around my grandparents. And most of them are gone by probably the World War II. I like this. I like the fact that your grandfather gave you that, and I think it's great. So keep it, use it, enjoy it. Try some curls with it. Try this one with it a little bit. The opposite of we must get our bust, or whatever it was. The issue always is progressive resistance exercise. The one I had 3 springs, but what do you do after 3 springs? So, and also how many other exercises can you find that might be better? I did have one final thought, and this would be, if you are a bench press push-up person, I had a thought that this chest spreading exercise might really be good for the old rhomboids. If you've got sleepy rhomboids, it might be a thing. But it was just a thought. I love all tools, and the fact that there's a great story means, to me, I would keep it. I look around my office at some of the stuff that's in here, and some of it might look like nonsense to you, but there's a story behind everything here. So you'll have a great one for your grandfather. Hey, thank you. Good question. Fun question. Well, Doug has a question. He says, my name is Doug. I'm 59 years old, husband, father, grandfather, and former discus thrower. Hey, we have a lot of similarities. Like you, my main goal forward is to maintain health, strength, flexibility, to be able to enjoy my grandchildren. That's great. I've been practicing easy strength 2 to 3 days a week with walks and 25-mile bike rides for the last 10 months or so, and other programs before that. In addition to that, I recently started playing pickleball, and I have a 2-part question related to the sport. First, what adaptations to easy strength or the armor building formula would you recommend to improve my pickleball game, increase my speed, athleticism to better cover the court, and improve eye-hand coordination? So that eye-hand is not going to be something you're going to develop in the weight room. I mean, we can do drills, but you need to play more games, while also bulletproofing my body against the rigors of playing pickleball 4 to 10 hours a week. I have jump ropes, dumbbells, plates, kettlebells, and club bells across multiple weight ranges. Whatever recommendations you can give, please send them to the me that existed in October of 2024, so I could have started practicing them before I injured myself. So I had to reach out to my people. We got to get that time machine again and fix a few things up in the past. I always feel like I'm in a Family Guy episode when people ask me to fix the past. That date is correct and brings me to a second question. I recently had to visit my physical therapist to seek treatment for an aggravated gluteus medius muscle and tendon, as well as an aggravated Achilles tendon. Neither issue was a tear, good for you, lucky, but both have forced me to stay off the court while I do PT. Any recommendation on strengthening, toughening those 2 areas are appreciated. Well, okay, first off, with pickleball, you're doing the right thing by playing. When you said 4 hours a week, I think that's fine. I like 10 hours a week even better. My only concern, I already see it with pickleball. Now, this is just the places I see it, is that the people who play pickleball just play pickleball. I think it'd be really worth your time to, of course, I think it's valuable to hire somebody, hire a coach, but you need to practice things. And one of the things that happens when a sport first comes out is people tend to only do the sport, and then it gets a lot more competitive and people figure out you have to work on things. So I'm certainly I'm out of my house already with pickleball, but maybe sometime pick up a bunch of balls and just, practice your serve, or get close to a wall and, practice volleying against the wall. For lifting for pickleball, I mean, I already think you're doing it. I would recommend for any sport, really, Doug, any sport, I would say easy strength for 2 months, armor building form for 2 months. Don't get cute. Don't, when you're doing easy strength, I would say do the 5 exercises at least 3 days a week. I would like you're doing 3 now. I'd like to add 2 more where you just kind of practice things. So maybe even just at home, if you have a lot of equipment, but yeah, I would do easy strength 5 days a week, with 2 of the days being 1 set of 10, just as to practice the movements and keep yourself in the game. When you do armor building formula, do it as I explain it don't add anything to it. Now, to build tendons and to build the connective tissue, the ligaments, religios, religion, those connections, the yoke, if you will. Okay, first off, the best thing to do is don't get hurt. Okay, that's really hard on tendons and ligaments and muscles and nerves and organs, and I can't remember what else you got. But try not to get hurt first. Okay, too late. I remember years ago, Dr. Fred Hatfield was discussing these idea of these bounce ballistics. You would put a really heavy weight on the bar and try to yank it, off the ground, yank, a series of yanks, quarter squats, the jerk drives we used to do, exercises that are short range of motion and have a bit of a hit to it to build the tendons. And he said it might take 10 years, but over time they will develop. So building tendons and ligaments is going to be not time consuming, but time extended, okay, if that makes sense. You're looking at trying to do something over a 10-year period. In that 10 years, I think probably better to practice your techniques, put yourself in awkward situations in your training. So when you hit an awkward situation in your game, you'll be not only ready here in the nervous system, but maybe even the physical level. Yeah, boy, building tendons and ligaments has been an issue. And I think we really discovered it, when the anabolic era took over, because muscles can grow quickly with hormones, but tendons and ligaments still just take their time. You can try to do a few things, but I think good physical therapy first for where you're at. Number one, okay? Number two, go back in time and never get hurt. Number three, I think if you're doing the basics of training, the easy strength, that powerlifting focus, the armor building formula, a little bit more ballistic, I think that's about as good as you do. I'm just guessing, at 59, I don't want you doing plyometrics or anything like that. The game has the plyometrics you already need, the bouncing, the jumping. But as soon as you can get back in, find a coach or a good eye, look for the mistakes in your game, film some of your games, look for errors that you do a lot, and train that. And I think you'll be a lot happier than trying to do some formula. Generally, and this will never change, but when people are hurt or worried about training, I always say first, focus on your sleep. You've got to get good sleep. Focus on non-sleep recovery, whatever that is for you. For me, a lot of it's meditation and sauna. Obviously I will do some tissue work, nothing too fancy. And then the third step on this, this very natural, sleep, recovery. Of course, it's going to be food. What are you shoving down your throat? And then, of course, maybe there are supplements you can take to help your tendons. Someone's going to mention bone broth. I have collagen that I add to my coffee sometimes. I got to be better about that. I think it does help. All those things are great. Get your basic training in the weight room done. And then, of course, and I keep coming back to it, try to fix the areas of your game that might be attributing to your injuries. Okay, thanks. And I hope that helped. Thank you. We have a question from Oliver. What I was looking into was trying to do overhead squats. However, I'm not able to do it. Seems that my upper body just directly wants to lean forward. Is this something I can work on mobility-wise, or is my body just not made for overhead squats? I could have easily skipped this question, but there's a point in there I want to go over. Are some people simply not born to do certain exercises and moves? Absolutely. When you work with guys in the NBA, there was a time where I think I had 3 or 4 guys I was training who were all over 7 feet. 7-footers have a hard time squatting. People with certain levers, perfect for squatting. Then you walk over and look at somebody else, different set of levers, not perfect for squatting. So there could be the DNA issue on that. However, I also think that a lot of people skip a lot of steps moving up to the overhead squat. I want you to Google here not Google, I want you to search here on YouTube for my little exercise. It is the goblet squat into the overhead squat. I know for sure I demonstrated in the perfect workout, but I also think I demonstrated a few other times. If you can't find it, somebody will find it for you. And really, it's just goblet squat that flows into just a broomstick overhead squat, back down, stand up at a goblet squat, back down, pick up the broomstick again, up, down, up, down. And it might simply mean be for you. You need more reps. You need to push your hips and push your knees out. It could be a lot of things. Blindly, I can't fix it, but I hope that helped. Thank you. This comes right back to our question about pickleball, but Jabik has a question. In the strength world, muscles get talked about a lot. The older I get, the more my tendons seem to become more sensitive, something I never noticed in my younger training days. So what is the relationship, if there is any, between muscle and tendon strength? Are there any specific kettlebell training programs aimed at strengthening tendons? Or is this interrelated with muscle training? I have John Jerome's book, probably one of the best books. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's right here. I apologize for not having it out. This is John Jerome's magnificent book, Wrestling Physical Conditioning Encyclopedia. There's a whole section in this book on tendon training. Dr. Fred Hatfield talked about it. And both John Jesse, who I have great respect for, and Dr. Fred Hatfield both believed that short, kind of bouncy ballistic movements would help with tendon training. I think that traditional weightlifting takes care of all your tendon and ligament training. Having said that, since just before this book came out and just before this book came out, something arose on the scene called anabolic steroids. And one of the things about drugs is that they really can increase how fast you build muscle mass. The problem is, and all you need to do is, I remember being told by someone, a very good coach, that blown pecs, pectoral muscles, and blown biceps are almost universally a sign of anabolic steroid use. Now, when I say that like that, there's going to be somebody who's got a blown pec or a blown bicep who's going to be offended by what I said. I'm quoting somebody, okay? Let me repeat. I quoted somebody, so don't get mad at me, get mad at the person I quoted. I think it's tough. I think if you start training at, say, 13 or 14 years of age, just a barbell, just a kettlebell, whatever it is, and you have a long, wonderful relationship with the barbell and weightlifting world, 3 days a week for, this is my, 60th year weightlifting? 60 years I've been lifting weights. So with me, 60 years of weightlifting, I've had a chance for my muscles to grow, and at the same time, my body can lay down thicker, tougher tendons and ligaments or whatever. So the answer number one, and Fred Hadfield says this too, and I'm quoting myself from just moments ahead of time in this particular podcast. Fred said it, he thought it would take up to 10 years to really build up his tendons by doing these, he was going to do it with the barbell, where you put a huge weight on the ground and you try to yank it off the ground to get that yank. He felt that the yanking and the heavy front squats, where you're just going for an eighth of the squat with really heavy weights, he felt that would build up your tendons over time. So there's the issue. It's the time issue. I've been lifting 60 years. And over time, I've had some issues. One of the things I suffer in this elbow with middle-aged pull-up syndrome. And the reason I suffer in this elbow with middle-aged pull-up syndrome is when I was a high school senior, I made a tackle in a game, and the running back from Balboa and I both came down on my left elbow, and I broke off 5 pieces of my elbow. I had 5 floating pieces that I didn't take care of. I played the whole season. If you look at pictures of me, I'll post them on my Instagram account, and maybe I can convince Ozzy to put the picture here. But you can see me when I'm playing in high school. I had this massive wrestling knee pad on my left elbow because it hurt all the time. And, sometimes on videos when I'm pressing, people get on me for I don't lock out my elbows. Two reasons. One, Frank Zane, the great bodybuilder, noted that you shouldn't straighten out your elbows when doing presses to keep the tension on the elbows. So, okay, that's my excuse. But the true reason is I struggle locking out the left elbow. And I've struggled locking out the left elbow since August of 1974. So it might not get better. Why did I bring up this long story? So I have, golfer's elbow, tennis elbow, pull-up elbow here. But I also have it because there's an injury on the other. The area's been damaged badly. I did get a surgery and had the pieces moved out. 1982, so that was 6-7 years I had to wait to get enough to have insurance that would pick up the tab. Wow. Are there ways to strengthen the tendons? Yes, but it takes 10 years. I think doing your typical exercises in the weight room is going to be almost all you really need. I think the calf raise is one of the most perfect exercises there is. The load goes directly into the joint. It's pretty easy to explain. I mean, if you can't figure out a calf raise, I don't know what I can do for you. But does doing calf raises build up the Achilles to prevent, Achilles tears? I have a number of friends who've had Achilles ruptures. I got to tell you, from all the things I've ever seen, that's the one injury I don't want. Would it help them to do calf raises? See, I don't know. If you get hit, you get T-boned in a car accident, you can do all the exercise in the world, but physics is going to take over. So I know this is a vague answer, but to me, the best way to build up tendons, get your sleep, good nutrition, try not to be an idiot, wear a seatbelt, wear a helmet. Your traditional weightlifting is going to take care of you the most. And I hope that helped. Thank you. And good luck, all of you who are having tendon and ligament issues, because once they start barking, they don't shut up. All right, thank you. We have a question from Dean. I'm a 61-year-old male who works out regularly. Overall, I feel great. He's 5'10", 165 pounds. Over the past years, I've had trouble with sleep. Yeah, because you're 61. I've had no problems going to sleep, but I wake up around 3 a.m. and sometimes have a problem going back to sleep. My doctor says I have no medical problems, and good for you. I have worked to improve my sleep hygiene by doing things as going to bed and getting up at the same time every day, the best thing you can possibly do. So that's number one, folks. Number one on sleep problems is have a sleep ritual, sleep hygiene. Try to have a window of time you go to bed every night. Lowering the thermostat at night, I went down to 62 at night. Here in Utah, it gets cold in the winter. And I got to tell you, I think it's really improved my sleep quality. I certainly don't sweat as much. And making sure my bedroom is dark at night. I have noticed that when I do yard work on the weekend, especially this time of year when the days are longer and hotter, I sleep very well. I'm not sure if I sleep better because of the sunlight exposure. See, I think, okay, keep going. And the physical activity that I'm doing in the heat. I have read that saunas can help with sleep. I have heard you talk about spending time in the sauna. My sauna is right there. That room is my sauna. How often do you get into the sauna? How often do you stay? How long do you stay there? How hot is the sauna? Any information you can provide me is very appreciated. Okay, so one of the things, there's rules about sleep. Let me go over the basics, okay? The one that really got me thinking is when our special ops sleep guy I said, what's the number one thing? And he said, never hit the snooze alarm on your alarm clock or phone. When the alarm goes off, get up. And I thought that was interesting. But there's been some other things that have helped me a lot too. First off, before I even get into this next part on, I want to say one thing. If you get a chance, every so often, at least on my feed, the same article comes up about the way people used to sleep. And what people used to do was you'd go to bed when the sun went down. So, in a few weeks here in Utah, that's going to be dinner time or before dinner, it's dark. Well, you'd go to, you'd eat, you go to bed. Well, you sleep, and then you would wake up in the middle of the night, you'd light your candle, and you'd write those really long letters that you always see in like Ken Burns' Civil War. You write long letters, maybe you bake something, maybe if you have a partner, you do other things, or maybe you read, and then you go back to bed. When I read that article, Dean, at first I thought, who would do that? Well, a couple of years ago, I started waking up every night about 3, and I'd be awake like this. Finally, I just gave in 1 or 2 nights, got out of bed, put on some clothes, went into another room, clicked on a light, and read for a little bit. Weirdly, I would go back to bed after that and sleep normally. I don't think I was up for more than 15 to 20 minutes, but what it did is it reminded me that I have some control over my sleep, and maybe that's the way we're supposed to do it. You asked a very specific question about saunas. I wanted to make sure I answered it, but I wanted to make sure I had all the other nonsense about sleep. I take my sleep ritual very seriously, and the one thing I want to do better is sauna. So one of the things you'll find when you sauna, and sometimes I'll do a little experiment, in fact, it might be a good idea today. I will take a sauna in the afternoon because my schedule allows that. And then I have these really cool mats that Tim Anderson showed me. They've got these little pokey things in them like this. So when you lay down on them, they poke you. And if you move a lot, it's funny, it doesn't leave any marks, but it feels like it's digging into you. But I don't ever remember meditating and sleeping better. I have a neck roll here and then one for my whole back. So I sauna, then I go upstairs and I lay on that while I'm still kind of hot. I haven't showered or anything. I'm hot. I lay down on the mats. I really just have to cover myself with a robe because I'm still hot. And then I put on my music cozy. I put on a guided meditation, and I go so deep into meditation. I still think I'm meditating, not sleeping, but it's as deep as anything I've ever done. So I looked it up, and one of the things that helps you sleep is going from warm to cold. I guess it's at a very, very primitive level. Is the day is hot, we're awake. The night is cold, we're asleep. And of course, you also notice with being outside with the vitamin D and all the magic of sunshine, good things happen. I like my sauna over 150 degrees. I used to put it up to 200, but I found I can only spend a few minutes there. I can get my sauna up to 220. I don't do it very often. It takes a while, and you have to keep the door closed. But for me, I think my favorite temperature would be in that one. I'm just using that little dial, so if I'm a little vague, I'm sorry. It's over 160 to 170, so let's just say 165. If I sauna every day for a while, I can go from a 10-minute sauna to a 15 to a 20 to almost being able to listen to an entire book on tape. I think saunas are better for fat loss than cold. I get that from Brad Pilon. Some others are starting to really come around to that too. I was at Costco yesterday, and they have 2 different saunas. They're selling right there on the floor. So I guess saunas are the new big thing again. But I'm a big fan of saunas. Of course, as always, your mileage may vary on this. I like them a lot. In my sauna, I have a speaker. I listen to podcasts. I meditate. I keep, skin scratchy things, kind of like loofahs, little hair brushes and stuff. I also keep a very strong lotion, and very often I will find certain spots in my body, like very often lately with the MAPS, I'll get in there and dig in the area around. I don't think for MAPS, I don't think it helps. Middle age pull-up syndrome, I don't think it helps at all, but it makes me feel better about things. I really think saunas have a great place. Now, hard stop right here. I'm not a fan of steam rooms. Water and electricity would be really hard to make work in a home. I've had hot tubs for most of my adult life. I don't have one now. I like hot tubs, but there's always issues with hot tubs. If you have a hot tub and your friends come over, their kids will want to use the hot tub, and you'll have to empty the water the next day after the kids use the hot tub and start again. Big fan of saunas. I keep telling myself I'm going to sauna at night, and I never get around to it. But maybe because of your great question, I'll get back to it, okay? Thank you. Fun question. We have a question from Burke. I'm a 36-year-old male in East Tennessee who is 5'8" and roughly 265 pounds. I'm currently losing weight, and that is going well. Good for you. My question is related to using the Armor Building Complex as a general athletic strength program. I play hurling, the Irish field sport, in Tennessee as a way to motivate myself to maintain my fitness and continue working out, not to mention for the crack, and I'm a big believer in adult continuing play. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I love hurling. Team Carnmore. My background in sports was American football and then some rugby in college. I've been using your general advice for a workout to be about the 5 basic movements and was just designing my own programs for the past few years. I love doing the Armor Building Complex, and I've used it to end blocks, particularly over a 2-week period leading to a peak. I recently bought the Armor Building Formula book, available at danjohnuniversity.com/bookstore, and I'm wondering if you think the program would be good for an athlete like myself. Apologies for the rambling nature of this. I'm going to say this. Anybody over the age of 30 who still is an active athlete, the Armor Building Formula, I humbly admit, is probably the best thing you do. It's very easy to learn the movements. Equipment needs are minimal, 1 or 2 kettlebells. Their kettlebells are very reasonable now to buy. You're basically working through workout A and a workout B. It repeats. You challenge yourself for 6 weeks, then you go back to base building. Maybe you challenge yourself for 6 weeks and go back to base building. You could easily work this into any kind of program that has Saturday competitions, Friday competitions, where maybe you train after the game or sport, or maybe you train on Sunday. If you play every Saturday, for example, I would suggest your workouts be probably Sunday, Tuesday, and then always have a lighter day on Friday, and then compete on Saturday. So Sunday might be a real good day to do the Armor Building Complex very seriously. The Tuesday might be a good day to get those high rep presses in. That Friday, the day before the contest, might be good just to go in and do 5 rounds of the ABC and just maybe 2, 3, 5, 10 in the press, total of 20 reps, just to feel good and get going. And, once the season's over, you can get back to a more traditional program. So yeah, I think the Armor Building Formula would be a great program. I was going over my old notes for another question, actually. And, I constantly overtrained. I constantly overtrained until I got injured so badly I couldn't train. And at that time, I learned how to do everything. I think the ABF is a solid program for any athlete over 30. Thank you. Sulev asks a question that I liked a lot. I've been involved in sports for many years, and as you know, serious athletes often keep training logs. However, despite my long athletic background, I've never really learned how to analyze my past training sessions properly, what conclusions to draw, that's where to look for progress, and how to identify what truly drives results. Up until now, my training logs have been mostly historical records, just showing what I did on a given day. But I feel like a training log should be much more than that, I agree. I should be a tool for improving performance. So if you have time, I'd love to hear how you use your training logs, how they've helped you train more effectively and reach higher performance levels, and how you have analyzed your past training and to achieve better results. Okay, I'm going to answer this question, and then I'm going to show you kind of a good summary of what I do now and to kind of model things. So this is my first weightlifting diary. And I spelled it dairy, so it's my weightlifting dairy, not so great. But this is from March 25th, 1972. It has one of my throwing heroes right here, Dave Chaney, the great San Jose State linebacker, some pictures of him. Here I have a program that I thought would be perfect as it hit every muscle. So this is just me in my notes. Incline press, reverse curl, upright rows, triceps press, squat, and finish off with bench press. On the back, Phil Grappaldi lifting weights. More pictures of Phil Grappaldi. A training program invented at the time. Still better than 90% of the crap I see. And these are just, and I look at it, I got my daily warm up and shoulder exercises and chest and, December 13th, 1974. I'm not sure what the workout was, but I did 3 sets of 5 in the bench press with 230, and I had 2 sets of 3 with 260. So that was December of 1974 when I weigh 162 pounds, and I'm doing 2 sets of 3 with 260. And that's why I threw the discus far. So I can go back. So this is my 72, 73, and 74 journal. And I've just got workouts in there. Not as much in 73. I don't know what I was doing. Lots of running, lots of throwing. Also in there, I have my track and field meets listed out. It's wonderful. It's great to come back to. And back then, I just listed what I was doing in the workouts. Here is my journal from 1987, which is kind of fun because I talk about in this one going to go see Ghostbusters, the original movie. Still coaching football at this time, throwing the discus far, lifting weights. And one thing I start doing in this one I brought this one up, is I started doing this thing called Key Lessons of 1989. This one starts April 25th, 1989. So here's the things I've already learned. On nutrition, this is when it was called jet fuel at the time, but this is the first time I really got seriously into, first off, it's how you shop. You just go around the outer ring of the store. You go to the produce section, you get your fruits and vegetables, you go to the dairy section, you go to the meat and seafood section, and then you check out. You don't go down, no cardboard, and that's what I was eating. In the weight room, it's funny because this is a little different. I don't think I agreed with this 3 months later, so I'm not going to share it with you. But relax and win was really big at the time for me. That's when I first learned how to control my mind. And it took me until I was 30 to figure out how to control my mind. So I have journals that go back to 1972. And what I want to do now is share how I do journals now. So one of the things about a journal, it has to be a living thing. It has to be past, present, and future. Okay. So on every journal I own, first thing is I always put my name, my email address, and my phone number on it first. And then on the back, I always put my current pirate map. Now, a pirate map is Pat Flynn's concept of, that's my daily to-do list. So I'm going to read it to you. There's only 5 things. 1, before I go to bed, coffee for the morning, ready. Take Hibernate. That's that nighttime sleep supplement I take. And I usually have a bottle, but I don't. Make bumpers to-do lists. I'll get back to that in a minute. Number 2, lift weights 3 days a week with original strength between sets. I love it. Walk 10,000 steps a day. Keep pedometer in the pocket. So I'm reaching in here, and let's just see. And there's my pedometer. Oh, and it's going to be real easy to get my 10,000 steps in today. Number 3, my morning supplements. I eat 2 basic meals a day, lots of fruits and vegetables. Number 4, keep track of measurements, lifts, and photos. Yeah, every Saturday I send my measurements, my weekly lifts, and then, I hate this, photos to my coach, and I hate that part. And number 5 is make a difference. Okay, so that's the start. Now, I have these really cool ones from Parker Seminars. So they come with these really cool things. So it allows, these little things allow me to make, so orange is when something good happens. Pink is when I visit Patrick, and then I use the others as appropriate. If I'm at a meeting and someone says something worthwhile, I'll peel that one off. And you'll find as you go through here, I'll put that on the day of the meeting, and it'll just see if it works out well. Now, here's this interesting thing, is I'm still doing the things I've learned. So every time I start a new journal, I write out things I know. So let's go. I'm going to give them to you right now. Number 1, know your kilocalories. Know your calories. And in this, at the start, that's back when I was on 2,600 calories a day. I'm at 25 now. And 160 grams of protein a day. That's that 0.8. The Tufts University newsletter says it's 0.82, but that's kind of the standard. And I got to tell you, 160 grams of protein, I just think it's hard to do. I mean, there are days where it's like, oh man, I know it's terrible. I got to drink more protein shakes, but you got to. Number 2, 10,000 plus steps a day. Number 3, lift weights 3 times a week. That's changed. Back in the day, I lifted 5. Number 4, bodybuilding mixed with original strength, okay? Number 5, sleep is so important. That never changed. Number 6, here are my basic supplements. Sugar-free, orange-flavored Metamucil and Hibernate. Number 7, fasting is stealing in fat loss. So I fast every day till about 11 o'clock in the morning. After I get my emails, my podcasts, my letters, my workout, and my walking. Like, for example, today I'm almost at 8,000 steps. I haven't eaten yet. Number 8, consistent brunch. That's a big one. So my brunch every day is eggs, protein drink with berries, cottage cheese, fruit, usually whatever fruit's kind of floating around. Yeah, that's just a daily to-do, yeah. Number 9, progress reports. I already mentioned that, the pics, the week review and measurements. And then for me, to-do lists and pirate maps are the game changer. Then underneath that, I have a note from my friend TJ, who at one of our we have a Saturday financial intentional community. And he said, here are the 5 things he learned from the group. Number 1, the value of enough. You'll notice how finance and physical they just overlap. Got to have the concept of what's enough. What's enough money? What's enough body fat? What's enough in savings? What's enough, how big your biceps are going to be, I guess. Yeah. Number 2, values are our North Star. And that's a quote from him. My 3 core values are fitness, order, and generosity. And I can prove it. Number 3, it's a comment out of my book, the ABC book. ABC and F book. It's available over on Amazon under Dan John. I've got a couple of books there. But it's how I judge things: A grades, B grades, C grades, and F grades. I'm going to hide your children's ears for a moment. Number 4 is the science of shit sight. What that is, if you don't know what you want, figure out what you don't want, and it just illuminates you. I will cut this next one out. Number 5, it's FU money. It's kind of nice to hit a certain place in life where you can just say, yeah, Dan, you need to do this. No, I don't. Well, then if you don't, we're going to fire you. F you. Okay, that was rude, and I apologize. So, but the most important thing I do now is, let me try to get let me see if I can get a good one here. Yeah, this one's okay. This is, okay, so remember I said about the gold star. So I was down in, I was over in North Carolina, and that's a note to myself to remind me with original strength, there's a concept of tying the X, so that little green thing there. And this is a PR. This is when I weighed 195. But what I do every day, and you're not going to be able to see it very well, so let me kind of explain it. Before I go to bed, I write tomorrow's date, and then my weight. I weigh in every day. My bumpers on my weight, which is funny because my bumpers are 217 to 228. So if I weigh between those two numbers, I don't panic. I'm happy. Life is good. Well, I weigh 195 to 201. On January 1st, I will adjust my bumpers. On the other side of this, it's like a T, is my income and financial goals for every month. And then I make a little to-do list. Almost every day on the to-do list on the body weight one is 10,000 steps. On the one for financial, that include podcasts, emails I got to send, phone calls I got to make. Sometimes I'll just call or make the email right then. But it's just anything I need to do kind of business-wise. Now, if there's a doctor appointment, I'll put it on the right side too. Interesting, because the doctor appointment will go on the right side, but the numbers, blood pressure, heart rate, whatever, will go on the left side. But that's fine. If it's, okay, so Friday's workout's going to be military press, chin up, one or two, I'll do some ab work and one or two just accessory work, to deal with some of the little injuries that poke around. Well, Thursday night, I'll write that down. I'll even write down some of the goals I have for the next day. Weirdly, you got to be careful of that. And I got to be careful because I even said this in one of my books. A couple of months ago, I tied my lifetime best in the chin up with 14, which I set that record, by the way, in 1974 when I weighed 162 pounds and played outside linebacker, strong safety, whatever we want to call a corner. Well, last week I'm doing chin-ups and I'm just, it seems like I'm accelerating 9, 10, 11, 12. And so I did 15, which is my lifetime best for chin-ups. So I don't, so I wrote down last Friday when I did it, I think I wrote down something along the lines of try to get 12 chin-ups as easy as you can. Well, I got them so easy, I kept going and broke my lifetime best. So that T is a to-do list for the next day, but then the next day becomes a living document. Very often I'll just make check marks, took the dog to the vet, mowed the lawn, went to the liquor store, whatever, check, that's fine. But sometimes it's like, I need to rethink, this workout. I need to get back, and it'll become a living document in that way. So my journals are past, present, and future. I'm to a place now where I talk to myself in several places. So I talk to myself here on the opening page with things I know. In the back, I always post my current workout typed up. You'll notice that it's typed up, but I have scratch outs and handwritten things in there. I need to clean that up. I also, sometimes in the back, I'll have best lifts for this thing. And then one other thing that, this is maybe a little too personal, but I have a little thing in here called a forgiveness journal. And anybody who upsets me, I put them in, I forgive them. I forgive it's funny because if I read off the names, some of you would recognize some of the names. I mean, they're public figures. My friend Patrick has a great line. If you have a rock in your shoe, what's the best thing to do? Well, you sit down, you take your shoe off, and you pull the rock out. And he says, don't turn your rocks into trophies. And the smartest thing I've ever done in my life is if somebody upsets me, or maybe, it's always a two-way street, it's always, I'm no innocent, or something bad happens to you, you write their name in the forgiveness journal and you forgive them and you go, wax on, wax off. And that little part at the back of my journal has been really helpful for me. And if you think your name might be in there, it is. No, it's not. All right. So that's what I do. I think your journal should be a living document. Now, when you ask me on how I review things, the number one thing I've learned, and I've been doing this a long time, is right when you open a new journal, write down the things you currently think are true. By the way, 20 years later, 89, 36 years later, you might not agree with that. And that's fine, because it's a living, your journal, your diary should be a living document, okay? When I look at my handwriting, it is funny, sometimes I can't read it because it's so small. So that's what happens when you read your journal from age 14 and you're 68. So for those of you who don't keep a journal or diary, I would suggest doing it today. If you train and you don't have a journal or diary, I think you're missing a lot of free information. Years ago, a mentor of mine said, you shouldn't keep a training journal. And I got to tell you, I did that for 6 months. And when I started my journal again, my first thing was what a stupid idea it was not to have a training journal. So, hey, I hope that helped, because I really enjoyed saying that, okay? Okay, Ben asks a question that I like. Recently, Netflix released a documentary about a TV show, The Biggest Loser. The documentary highlighted a few contestants' experiences during the show, as well as the long-lasting physical and emotional damage they still carry in the years following their time on the show. My question for you is fairly broad. What is your opinion of The Biggest Loser? It broke my heart calling a show The Biggest Loser. You know, it bugs me. In this day and age, there's all these words I'm not allowed to use, okay? But we can have a show called The Biggest Loser. You know, there's this podcast I basically can't even listen to anymore because one of the voices in the podcast has these extraordinarily high standards for everybody, okay? You know, you can't watch the Lawrence of Arabia anymore because, you know, they have actors using makeup to look a certain thing. And then in an episode, this person outs a famous movie star who's no longer with us. Oh, it's just a rumor. And I'm like, wait, okay, so all of us probably could use some work on how we treat our fellow humans and creatures on this wonderful planet. The name Biggest Loser is just so offensive, and yet it became a joke. And how does it align or contradict with your professional experience? Well, I thought all the coaches were lunatics on the show, but what do I know? Is there a different message you wish the show communicated? Yeah. Yeah, okay. See, the thing is, I actually thought about this. The first thing I would do is this. I would lose the first month or so's weigh-ins, because what I would do, I would try to find a place that has no social media, no TV, lots of books, and I would have the people in a place that's very quiet. I'm thinking north coast of California would be a wonderful area, you know, right there on the beach, you know, with all the trees and beach. And I had a couple of ideas. My first is we'd have no food in the house. We'd have plenty of, you know, obviously coffees, teas, waters, sparkling waters, the whole thing. And what I would do is that our meals, probably twice a day, would be, at first, probably maybe a half a mile or an hour, half a mile or a mile walk down a beautiful beach. So to get your brunch, you would have to walk to brunch. Of course, to get back to your clothes and everything else, you'd have to walk back. The workouts for the first couple of weeks would be you walk to your meals and you walk back. And if you felt like a snack, you had to walk back. There's miracles in walking to and from. The next thing I would do is we would emphasize sleep more than you can believe. My first week would probably be this. First off, everybody would have to go to the dentist and we'd have to take care of everything in the mouth. Interesting is that there is some discussion. I was told there was some research, though I haven't seen it. I did talk to my dentist about this, on obesity and oral hygiene and how they're very closely connected. In my own experience, I've seen it, though I don't, you know, sometimes what you see and, you know, what really happens isn't always the same. So the first week we'd go to a dentist. We'd spend a lot of time probably at a doctor's office. I would be more than happy to use any medicines that are going to help. A lot of people with these conditions, just simply being overweight leads to conditions. You know, in my own case, I cured my right ankle arthritis by losing weight. I mean, that's a no-brainer. But I mean, if there's some medicines, if there's metformin or glucophage or even some of these new injectables, yeah, sure. I mean, because it's doctor's care. Probably also go see an eye doctor because I can't help myself. And then really, I wouldn't mind seeing an ear specialist and just see, because any improvement we see is improvement. So that first week, it would be lots of walking to and from meals, the medical checkups, and then the big one for the first week is dealing with sleep hygiene. Obesity, overweight tends to lead to sleeping issues. Sleep apnea. Someone told me you can cure sleep apnea easily, lose weight. And I thought, wow, okay, well, that because I know there's more to it than that, but it, connect the dots sometimes. So we would deal with sleep hygiene as best as we can. And the other thing I would start doing on week 1 is the use of a sauna every night at probably about 6 o'clock. Ideally, we'd be in a situation where the sun goes down early. We would sauna every night and then go to bed. And as they cooled off, they would sleep. That first week, the second week, would probably get into some machine training. I would suggest that we would go with certainly leg extensions, because I think that's money. If I could get the hip thrust going, great. Obviously, I'd like to stay with machines as much as we can. With machines, you can get higher reps with machines. The safety issue is there, and I think that'd be important. The first 4 weeks would be a lot of vegetables, a lot of fruit, a lot of protein. In fact, that might be all we get. Every meal has the before and after walk. Ideally, we would have two meal sessions a day. I would love to see fasting. And then, of course, 3 days a week, we would do progressive resistance exercise with really that focus on progressive. I think we would struggle on the weigh-ins the first week or two, and then something interesting would happen about week 3, where we would get those wonderful things in the Atkins community. It's called the whoosh. I bet we would start seeing the whoosh by about week 3, week 4. I would also like, as best we could, to bring in, certainly I would love to have a guy like BJ Fogg work with Tiny Habits. Yay! I love Tiny Habits. But also, if we could, at some level, either group therapy or individual therapy in positive ways, and not because, oh, woe is me stuff, but, kind of talking about, how do we get ourselves in there, into a situation of obesity. I would stay as positive as I could. We would drink a lot of sparkling water, a lot of tea, and a lot of coffee. We would do a lot of walks on the beach and read a lot of books and just do our best to be positive and make the world a better place. Fun question. I'd love to do it. Hey, Hollywood, hire me. Thanks so much. And just one final note. Once we got them to about week 6 or so, I would probably introduce a kind of more of a lifetime program. In Armor Building Formula 2, I have a whole section on armor building for fat loss. And what I'd like to do with that is teach people the importance of, you don't need a lot of equipment, 2 kettlebells and a walk. So you do the armor building complex while you're still breathing, you go for a walk. Ideally, we would introduce that kind of thing into the program. Well, I just don't know how long I'm going to have them, though. But thank you. A fun question. I really enjoyed it. Thank you. Okay, Simon asked a question, and Simon says, just to set the stage, I spent about 35 years from age 21 not being athletic, active, or anything like the folks you are used to. Simon and all my other listeners, 19 out of 20 people exercise. I hang around 5 people who exercise, but I hang around thousands of people. So most people I know don't exercise, so I am sorry. But about 18 months ago, I picked up a kettlebell and something clicked. For the first time in my life, exercise habits stuck. So 18 months, I think, is enough time for the habit to be there. That's good to hear. Could barely do 10 to 12 minutes with 12K kettlebell at first, but just finished 10 sets of the armor building complex. One set equals 2 clean, 2 press, 2 goblet squat. So you're doing the single side, I guess, with 24 kilogram in 18 minutes. Not bad at all. Followed by 180-yard farmer's life carries with 24. So I think this is decent progress. To be honest, ago, I felt 24 kilos was unreachable. As someone who is just a few steps beyond beginner, what would you recommend I prioritize? Last few months, I focus on building strength versus endurance. I still get my heart rate up even though I'm doing low reps, but I'm a fat old guy. First off, stop saying that about yourself. I'm begging you, okay? Simon, you can't talk like that about yourself. I know it's funny and I do it myself, but you're in the process and you got to appreciate now. You got to appreciate who you are now. You are doing great. Keep it up. Words have weight. Words have meaning, and you're doing fine. Didn't mean to correct you. Should I be more focused on endurance and worry less about getting stronger? I'd love your opinion. Well, I'm not great at math, but so I think you're 56, and at 56 you're plus 55. You're over the 55. So listen, I think since the jogging boom, I think we've been oversold on aerobics and those kinds of things. I'll get questions sometimes. I don't even answer them sometimes. But it'll be questions like, Dan, how do you increase your VO2 max? And my first thing is always, well, what's your VO2 max now? Well, I don't know. Well, if you don't know, like that's one thing I like about my doctor. We only look, because I go to 2 visits a year to my doctor. My insurance picks up one, I pay for the other because I think it's valuable. Because what we're always looking for is trends. With things like VO2 max, you want to have a trend. With your body weight, if you're trying to lose weight, it's the trend. If I come into if I just show up at a party, I weigh 195 to 201 right now. Kind of depends on the day of the week, really. So if I go to a certain thing and they say, how much do you weigh? And I'll say 200, and they'll say, oh my God, you're so fat. Why am I so fat at 200? Well, because that's a lot of weight. But I used to, as an athlete, weigh 273. So my trend from 273 to 200 is down. My A1C, which is happy, has been trending down for a while, even though it wasn't very high to begin with. My good cholesterol is still trending upwards, HDL. My problem cholesterols are either fine or trending down. Because I donate blood 5 times a year, I can look at my heart rate and blood pressure and hematocrit levels, 5 times, and with blood tests, so 7 times a year. I get all kinds of information, and I'm looking for trends. That's a long way to go to make my point. I think sometimes we get oversold, especially as Americans, on this is right and this is wrong. That moral theology thing, I'm always sitting here. For most people over 55, and I use Phil Maffetone's numbers, if you do the armor building complex, I guarantee your numbers are in the Maffetone zone when you go on that half-hour walk after you lift. I'm to the point that I don't even take my heart rate anymore. I gave blood the other day, and I don't do it often enough. I should do it every time, but often when I donate blood, I'll have the phlebotomist take a picture of me, and then I'll write something on my Coach Dan John Instagram account. I should do it more often. But my resting heart rate was 58. 3 hours after I lifted weights. My resting heart rate at age 68 is 58. Hell, if it was 68 at 68, those are good numbers. So I feel that I'm getting the benefits of cardiovascular work. without having to do the sin of cardiovascular work. That's something almost sounded like Pavel there. The disgrace, he calls it the disgrace of cardio. All you're trying to do is get your heart and lungs doing their job, with your arteries and veins. That's the job of this. Why do I not take my heart rate while I'm doing my walk anymore? Is because if you use Maffetone's numbers, for me it's 180 minus 68. So it means I can't go higher than 112. And his numbers, if we're going to use them exactly, if I'm wrong in this, I never get it right. Well, let's just say my heart rate needs to be about, come on, 100 to 120, 100 to 110. There's 90 to 120, even that range. The reason I'm doing all that extra changing, if you're on medicine, according to Phil Maffetone, you should change your numbers. And I do take metformin because of the liver the issue I had back in the 80s. If you've been sick, you're supposed to, you lower it. So I always add all that variation. Sadly, I didn't include you in that. So I didn't. If I threw you off, I apologize. But let's just say those numbers are very easy for me to get to. And when my heart rate's at 110, I'm not getting that thump, 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 thump. It's just doing its job. So for many of my listeners, lift weights and go for a walk is all you need. And of course, Rusty Moore also teaches us that if you lift weights and go for a walk, your free fatty acids, and I always say get scooped up like Pac-Man. And of course, if you don't know what Pac-Man was, you're probably not a normal listener to my podcast. I think you should focus on strength. And I think you should, especially at your age, you should really focus on body composition. So I think you're doing a lot of the right stuff. The fact that you're doing kettlebells and adding walking. I like the 10,000 steps a day because it's simple for me to remember. It's nothing fancy. I guess there's a song. Let's see. So I'm 6 foot. Okay. And I guess there's a song. Someone told me, I'm 6 foot with a six pack with 6-figure income. I like that kind of thinking. For me, I like the idea of 8 glasses of water a day, 8 hours of sleep, and 10,000 steps. I guess 8,000 would be a little bit sound better, but you know what I mean. I like those numbers that your mom would have said you should do, your grandmother said you should do, and they work. And that's why I like it. If you're doing the armor building formula, you're doing the ABC, I'd recommend the armor building formula to you on this. And the reason I'm saying that, Simon, is I think you need the hypertrophy work of the press family, the overhead press family, either the doubles or the singles, however you work it out. I think that'll really make a difference with your progress. So thank you, Simon. And I think that's a good question. And I think there was a point in there before I started rambling off that might have helped some people. Folks, if you're over 55, body build, working mobility, and walk. Hi, I'm Dan. I'm 68. And I do mobility 7 days a week. I lift weights 3, and I walk at least 10,000 steps 7 days a week. I eat my protein. I eat my veggies. I eat my fruit. And if there's a secret, and sleep. If there's a secret, I just gave it away. Wow. Oh, that was fun. Episode 325 is in the books. I thought that was fun. Thank you. Now, a reminder, if you have a question, please send them to the podcast at this address, podcast@danjohnuniversity.com. Each and every week, I sit down here and I answer your brilliant questions with as best as I can. And until next time, let's all keep on lifting and learning. Thank you.